The moment is here, you can stop your search. It's Comics by Perch.
Hey everybody, this is Perch. Let's open up the mailbag. We got a topic we've never talked about before and a bit of a challenge, so let's see what we have. Hey Perch, I've listened to many of your videos. One thing I am confused about though, why don't you ever talk about how Marvel and DC frequently take their legacy heroes and replace them with new woke versions of themselves? It really feels like something you should cover at some point. Keep up the good work. Thanks. Okay. I feel like I've done this video, haven't I? So look, what's kind of weird for me is, and no offense to the person writing, but you know, I think I've explained this video. I think I've talked about this video. I think that we've done this. I think that, you know, I don't know what you want this channel to be. If you're going, why don't you do a video about, you know, character replacements? Like I've done that video. How many times do you want me to do that video? It is you know, it's just, I guess, you know what, fuck it. Let's just go to a different mail. How about that? I tap out, you know, I'm just, it's fine. All right. Let's see. What do we have here? The merger that everyone is so worried about. Different mail. It says, I think there's no greeting here, which is actually nice. It says, I think two things have slightly disappointed me these last 2 years. Since disappointment has happened to everyone a lot, I'm still a bit surprised I even feel disappointed at this. One is Elon Musk buying Twitter, and the other is David Zaslav's merger of WB and absorbing DC's IP. Are we going to talk about Elon Musk? We're not going to talk about Elon Musk. Okay, we're just going with DC. So I seriously thought that perhaps when Zaslav bought WB and inherited DC, that he would at least give some interest to trying to make DC profitable again, especially in the comics part. Though it seems nothing much has changed. We still have the same comic writers flaunting about their lives and new characters no one cares about and changes to established characters no one likes. Since Zaslav is a money-focused guy, I can understand he brought this mostly to use the IP in more profitable forms of media, movies and television. Comics are struggling, no doubt. The manga that is a similar format to comics is still thriving. So one can assume, logically, that changes can be made to the comic section to make comics more profitable. At this point, wouldn't it be wiser for Zaslav to rent out the IP to writers or smaller companies who actually care about making the IP profitable? Let experienced businessmen, writers, and artists get together to make something worth selling and take a percentage of the profit, since technically Zaslav WBDC owns the IP. I don't know if you've breached this topic recently, since I go on YouTube sporadically. Thanks for your time and input. Okay, that's a better mail to talk to. So, the simple answer is this. If you think about a giant pie chart, okay, so a big circle, and you think about all the different, you know, slices that make up the money, that the WB Discovery merger, all the things that are in that farm. What you'll find there is a very small slice that is DC IP. And that's DC IP going into movies and other things. Think about the entire conglomerate of stuff there. I think even like the DC licensing and the motion picture business and the animated stuff they do and all the rest on HBO Max makes up, in terms of revenue, somewhere about 1 to 2% of that pie, maybe. Probably about 1 to 2%, though. It's not much. I mean, again, it's a public company. You can actually grab the annual report and probably tease some of this out, but it's not a big percentage. It's tiny. And the comic book percentage of that percentage is not even a blip. It's nothing. So if you are a businessman like Zaslav, you would look at this and you would say, this is not worth my time. And when I said it's not worth my time, if you listen to YouTube and remember, like, there are a bunch of videos that would talk about things like, hey, Zaslav's going to come in and really like get to the bottom of these DC numbers. No, he's not. He's not, because frankly, the time it would take for him to do that, literally, if you put a clock on him, like walking down the hallway and harassing somebody at their desk and saying, give me the numbers. If you took like what that would cost in terms of what the company deems opportunity costs, and not his salary, but basically what Zaslav should be worried about as a chief executive officer, that would cost more than the profit the DC Comics lineup would make for a year. It's tiny. It's tiny to the point that it's not worth thinking about. And he doesn't think about it. DC Comics, in his mind, is considered a marketing kind of connected piece of the business to this 1 to 2% that ultimately can, if he can find a way to grow even that to 3 to 4%. But Zaslav's, his main concern is not going to be DC at all in any form, including the movies. His concern is going to be, do I have the right, executive president or general manager or vice president, whatever? Do I have the right person who is going to run my motion picture department and run my business in an effective way? And then, they'll give him speeches like, we care about the DC superheroes and making money at the box office, an important part of our tentpole strategy for media and conglomerate. He'll say things like that, but really where his interest is going to begin and end is in finding a Kevin Feige. I'd be willing to bet that the James Gunn hiring had nothing to do with Zaslav. I would bet he had to sign off on it, or he had to be the final, stamp. But I guarantee you, he did not. He's not running the interview loop or saying, "Man, we got to get somebody like James Gunn in here." He's not. So to think that he'd get in there and kind of adjust or do anything with the comics at all is absurd. What's going to happen is he's going to appoint executives to his team who will manage different parts of the business. And one of those executives will appoint another executive. And that executive will go, is there a way that I can, reduce operating costs and increase my share of the pie? That, the thing has been broken up. Now you got the guy who's worried about the 5% of media going, or DC media specifically, going, of this tiny pie. DC Comics now is, a couple percentage points of that. How do I reduce costs and double it? And is it an option to just license the comics out? But here's the crazy part. As a corporation, if they ever license the comics out, meaning just let some other publishing arm do it, kind of get out of the business entirely, they wouldn't even look at it from a profit and loss standpoint. They'd look at it from an efficiency standpoint. And it's really important to understand. They would basically go, it is easier for us to think about all of our kind of print and poster and t-shirt and kind of merchandise. It's easier for us to think about that as just all licensed. We can have a slim internal operation, and that's how we would do it. They wouldn't even care if it costs them more money or less money in that process for the comics to be done this way, because it is tiny. It is a tiny, insignificant number. And so that's how it would happen. It would not be somebody making a conscious choice to do this. So, the problem is, as comic fans, of course, it means a lot to us. To us, the future of DC Comics is a big part of that pie because, they're the things we buy and enjoy and read. So we care about it. But, from a corporate business standpoint, it's nothing. And it just, we need to not trick ourselves in thinking that from that perspective or that lens, as they say in corporate entity, from that lens, it has, deep significance just because it matters to us personally. That's where that sits. So, that there you go. That's pretty much the story right there. That's why he's not focusing on it. It's frankly not worth his interest to focus on it. That's about the extent of it. So anyway, I wish he would. Honestly, I think, one of these two, Marvel or DC, opting out and just getting a company like a Dark Horse or a Mad Cave or a Boom or somebody just take over the publishing rights and really do it right, or attempt to. It'd be interesting to see that experiment go down. But unfortunately, it would be a one-way street. So if Marvel or DC ever decided to just kind of outsource and let somebody else do it, they would never bring it back in again. And so it's the devil is safer than the devil you don't. If they ever were to outsource it, it would be in many ways the end of the comic company. Even if some of those characters would continue, we could forget about any kind of narrative storytelling like we used to see in the 80s. But, there you have it. Anyway, thank you very much for the question. Much better than the first question, which sucked. And thanks for listening.